Hi, I'm Angie, and you're watching Dante's Vaccinated.
And all my sisters out there, welcome to Blow by Blow, episode 2, where tonight the doubleheader, the Charlo's brothers, put on the show. They officially entered the pound for pound list, even on the haters list. In the meantime, I actually have my man Dante. So shout out to my Aki, my broski Dante, the entrepreneur of new media that I'm a part of. What was your take on Jermall? Was you impressed by the way he fought tonight and won in spectacular fashion?
I was impressed with a whole lot of stuff, man. I mean, first of all, when you step up in competition, it's hard to look that dominant. Usually when people step up in competition, you know, it's a close tooth and nail type of affair. But that's what I really like about the Charlos. They step up in competition, and 9 times out of 10, you know, they win in a dominant performance. And that's the difference from a Canelo and a Gennady Golovkin, which I know that's going to piss off a whole bunch of Canelo and Golovkin fans, but the truth is the truth. When they step up like that, they struggling, it's controversial, and all of that stuff. But when like you got Jermall Charlo, he just beat someone who just knocked out Julian Williams, who his other brother knocked out Julian J. Rock Williams when he was undefeated. Now the younger brother is knocking out the dude who beat him to unify the belts. They do it in impressive fashion, man. And for him to knock him out with a jab to the solar plexus, yeah, man, that was extremely impressive, man.
Yeah, that was a Floyd Mayweather type of jab. We've seen Floyd Mayweather early on in his career actually stop somebody to the jab. However, when it came to Jermall, he had Rosario in a stroke fashion. Now, I hope he's okay, but I never seen that before. Have you ever seen somebody get hit to the body with a jab and react in that fashion?
I ain't never seen it like that. Not to that extent, at least. I mean, I've seen some people go down cringing, you know, for a while. What comes to mind is when De La Hoya got knocked out by Bernard Hopkins, when he was in tremendous pain, you know, but not the way, but yeah, not to this extent, because like you said, it looked like your boy Rosario, yeah, he was having a stroke. You know, he was all messed up. You know what I mean? It just paralyzed him in pain. So, yeah, I haven't seen it to that extent. Yeah, that's crazy.
To add on to your point, when they do step up, the Charlo brothers, they always put on a spectacular performance because Jermall, on one hand, when he fought Lubin, that was a huge step up. He knocked him out in 1 round. And now he stepped up against Rosario, a unification bout where he dropped him twice, and the 3rd time he stopped him with a jab to the body. So he definitely made a statement. Now, when it comes to Jermall, is it safe to say he's officially a top pound-for-pound fighter?
Yeah, I was actually about to say that when I was talking before. I was like, he definitely cracked the top 10. I need to go over, you know, once again, me and you, you know, we're going to go ahead and especially go through all the other fighters because I want to put them in the right order. But he definitely cracked the top 10 with a performance like that, unifying the belts. That, you know, they had said it during the broadcast. This was number 1 going up against number 2 in the division. And once again, he did it in impressive fashion. So, yeah, man, he definitely is in the top 10.
Yeah, and boxing is the theory of the unexpected. That's why you can't play the triangle theory. In the 154-pound division, it's even the circular theory because the belt's been circulating in that division. But Jermall remains on top, and he's still on top to this day. Performance. He won in such a spectacular fashion that the haters have to acknowledge his greatness. So when it comes to Jermall, I know you saw his performance. So what was your take on his performance against Deryachenko?
Well, the first thing that I noticed is he beat him. He dominated him in a more impressive fashion than Danny Jacobs and Golovkin did because the fights were a little bit closer. But he just completely dominated. I mean, Sergey, he does what he always does. You know, he starts off a little slow. Charlo, he hurt him a couple times, especially earlier on. But then Sergey started to pick it up. And this is once again what impresses me with the Charlos is nothing will deter them. It don't matter if you're trying to walk them down like Jason Rosario was trying to walk down Jermell. It don't matter if you're coming forward throwing punches and bunches like Sergey was doing against Jermall. They keep their composure. They're relaxed at all times, no matter what they're dealing with, like Floyd Mayweather was. You know, Floyd can get hurt by Shane Mosley and still be relaxed, not panicking. So that's what I was mostly impressed with when it came to Jermall. He wanted to knock out really, really bad, but you know, Sergey just wasn't going nowhere. But you know, he created distance in terms of him beating him in a more impressive fashion than everybody else did. So that was a good test to be passed.
Yeah, I feel the same way because if you recall the Gennady Golovkin versus Deryachenko, I had Deryachenko beating Gennady Golovkin. A lot of people did as well.
A lot of people did, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So for Jermall to pull off that type of a performance against a top middleweight, it just showed their class and the separation between them and a lot of these fighters in their division. I did feel like Jermell, when he was fighting Rosario, you remember Rosario was going to the body very well. I felt like he could have utilized the counter uppercut, kind of like Jermall does. So what was your take on that? You think it was his style, or an uppercut is not his favorite punch like his brother?
I mean, he probably could have landed some uppercuts, but I know that Rosario, he had a real tight, winky right type of guard, you know, when he was coming in them first couple rounds. But yeah, I mean, of course, Jermell, he probably could have split the guard, but he was still effective, you know, with them right hands, and especially the right hand that clipped him on the top of the head, which where his guard wasn't at, you know what I'm saying, went above the guard and clipped him on top of his head. And then with that left hook that he knocked him down with later on in the fight, yeah, I mean, he was still able to land other shots, but I guess he had no confidence that it would land, I guess.
Right. And I must ask you this question, Dante. When Jermell fought Lubin, and obviously when Jermall fought my man J-Rock, they fought those guys when they were undefeated. So a lot of people compare their performance then. So if we do compare their performance now, who topped who?
You mean out of the Charlo brothers?
Tonight, if you compare their performance, who topped who tonight?
Tonight? Well, of course it was Jermell. I mean, of course it was Jermell. I mean, he just unified the belts. He just beat someone coming off of their biggest win. You know what I'm saying? And the dude was good. And once again, he was coming forward. You know, it wasn't like he just beat him unanimous decision. They were both impressive. But to knock out somebody like Jason Rosario after he just came off of that J-Rock win, yeah, he was more impressive. No doubt about it.
Right. And one thing about the Charlo brothers, one thing they have in common is that they both got avoided by Canelo. At 154, I don't know if you recall this, Canelo was supposed to fight Jermell in Texas instead of Crooklyn, because obviously that was Jermell's hometown, and Canelo, he have a lot of fan base when it comes to the Hispanic community.
When you say he was supposed to, you mean that's what he was supposed to do, not because I don't want it to be mistaken for they were talking about doing it. Like Canelo was actually trying to make that fight, right?
Oh, no. Canelo wasn't trying to make that fight.
I wanted to make that clear. Yeah.
The only reason I said that is because at the time, Jermell was signed with Golden Boy. And Golden Boy promised Jermell if he wins his next fight, he's going to get a Canelo opportunity instead of Crooklyn. Yeah, instead of Crooklyn. So because Golden Boy didn't fulfill their promises, Jermell ended up actually leaving Golden Boy. The fact that Canelo didn't fight Jermall Charlo at the time, it caused Golden Boy to lose Jermell, because Jermell told Golden Boy, let me out of my contract if you guys not going to keep y'all promise. This is a big fight. I'm from Texas, and he have a lot of fans from Texas, so it only makes sense for them to fight, right? So that's why he left Golden Boy. And also, we already know Big Charlo, his situation at 160, Canelo Alvarez requested a French fries belt in order to avoid that fight. So they do have that in common. Canelo avoided both of them, and he's still avoiding the Big Charlo to this day. So, to you is now the pressure, is it rising when it comes to Canelo? Does he now have to face Jermall Charlo? Will he face Jermall Charlo?
the pressure is definitely rising. You know, the walls are closing in for a couple of different reasons. Like I just said in the video I just dropped, I think it would be wise, even though it's a gamble, but it would be wise for Jermall to either go after, if he can't get Canelo right now, either unify and go after Andre, or hop up to 168, because he already said he wanted that fight, and fight the baddest man at 168, which is David Benavidez. If he were to beat either one of those guys, that would put tremendous pressure on Canelo to take that fight. Now, another reason why it's already pressure on Canelo is because even DAZN is going to start putting pressure on Canelo to take that fight. Like I just said in the video I reported a couple days ago, apparently Canelo is in mediations right now with DAZN, which means they're negotiating some type of settlement that they'll both be cool with. And in that situation, the DAZN, surprisingly, they want to now give Canelo $20 million a fight instead of $35 million, and then they're gonna give him a percentage of, you know, the DAZN buys, basically, like pay-per-view buys. So when it comes to, you know, new subscribers, so what that implies is DAZN is basically telling Canelo, if you want to make more money, first of all, we made a mistake giving you the money we gave you, because we thought you was going to be bringing in some ridiculous numbers like Floyd Mayweather, and that didn't happen. So now you're going to have to show and prove if you want something even close to 35 million or even close to 30 million, because he probably still ain't going to even get 30 million now. So that's where more pressure comes in. Now, whoever he's working with is going to be forcing him. And even if he leaves the zone and he wants to make serious money, yeah, he's going to have to get in there with somebody like Jermall. So for now, though, all Jermall has to do is keep winning. The fact that Jermall keeps winning and he looks more and more impressive, that is another thing that continues to put pressure on Canelo Alvarez.
Right. Speaking of, you know, to all of the fans, check out the video Dante dropped on DAZN when it comes to Canelo Alvarez. It was a great video. Dante dropped a lot of jewels, so I'm going to leave it in the comment section below after the live is over. And to follow up with that, you're 100% correct on that, because remember, the reason why HBO went out of business is because they didn't have that type of revenue coming in, like when Floyd Mayweather was still fighting, when Manny Pacquiao was still fighting. So if Canelo couldn't save HBO, even though he fought Gennady Golovkin the first time on HBO, and they promoted that fight like it was one of the biggest fights of all time, right? So they put that narrative out there. So if Canelo was such a star, he would have saved HBO. One thing for sure that we do know, if Floyd Mayweather, let's say Floyd Mayweather was 29 years old after he beat Oscar and he's fighting on HBO, HBO would not have left the boxing game, right? But it shows you that Canelo don't have that type of a star power due to the fact that he's not fighting the guys he's supposed to fight, like the Jermall Charlos of the world, which is leaving a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. So DAZN definitely made a huge miscalculation, because if he was going to bring DAZN to life, he would have saved HBO. So them giving him $32 million guarantee to fight, that was a huge miscalculation on their behalf. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, when it's Canelo, they always say, oh, who have he fought? Who have he beat? But when Jermell, like you pointed out, like when Jermell is fighting Rosario, he never said, oh, who did Rosario beat? Oh, you got to earn a shot with me. He went on and fought him, you know what I'm saying, and put on a hell of a performance. In order to be great, you got to challenge yourself against the best. And in the sport of boxing, the best must fight the best. So this is one step forward in the sport of boxing. So hopefully they continue doing that. Any closing thoughts on, you know, both of the Charlo brothers and their pound for pound status, and just your take overall?
I mean, same thing. I mean, Jermell, you know, he cracked the top 10, and just to add on to what you just said, you know, they're making their moves. They're basically walking it like they talk it, you know, the Charlos. They're doing things that Canelo and people like Golovkin are not willing to do themselves. You know, like you said, being in the division, going after a tough, strong, dangerous champion in your own division, to once again reiterate what you just said, the fact that, you know, he didn't use any excuses like, oh, don't nobody know who he is or whatever. But once again, we also have to remember these are excuses that Canelo fans use that Canelo himself is not even using. which shows you that even Canelo fans themselves are afraid, of him possibly getting in the ring with them type of cats. But they just have to keep winning, man. When you're the most avoided fighter or one of the boogeymen in the division, you just got to keep winning. Eventually, these cats are going to have to come see you, or they're going to start declining while you're still, ascending. That's kind of like what we're seeing right now. And it's like a little bit of that type of shift right now. Right now, Canelo, he's on a decline just because of his situation with the zone, his selection of opponents. His own team is not even happy with his selection of opponents. And this is just giving the Charlo brothers more of an opportunity to shine. Right. So we're going to see them continue to grow and get bigger and bigger, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and to add on to that, see, perception is everything. And even Canelo fans know the truth deep inside, because they want to tell us one thing online, but deep inside, they know the truth. Deep inside, they know these two brothers are cut from a different cloth. So, when it comes to Floyd Mayweather, for example, he always fought the best. The reason why he became a superstar in the game is because every time they pointed out a fighter in his pretty boy stage, he fought that guy right away. You all could go back to the Brian Kinney interviews. On the other hand, Canelo Alvarez, every time we pointed out a fighter, he ended up avoiding him. Charlo, Andre, right? Every time we tell him to fight the best, there's excuses coming our way. Oh, Andre too boring. Andre, he'd run. But funny enough, Canelo ran against Gennady Golovkin, the first time they fought. So you can't use that excuse, right? So my point is, his perception is he really maneuver around the best. And every time he sees a weak opponent, after a fighter has, let's say, a weak performance, that's when he want to fight him. For example, Gennady Golovkin. When Gennady Golovkin looked horrible against Jacob, he fought Gennady Golovkin. At first, he vacated the WBC strap in order to avoid Gennady Golovkin after beating Cotto. And then, remember, Saunders, he was saying Saunders is boring. He's not interested in fighting Saunders. As soon as Saunders looked horrible fighting a nobody on a YouTube undercard, now all of a sudden, he's entertaining the Saunders fight. And the examples go on and on. The list goes on and on when Canelo Alvarez just cherry picks fighters coming off horrible performances. On the other hand, Floyd Mayweather always fought, even at, Money May stage. He fought Canelo after he beat the Trap. He fought Pacquiao after a good performance. He fought Sugar Shane Mosley after his biggest win, knocking out Margarito. He fought Cotto after, beating Margarito. He fought Ortiz after beating the undefeated Berto. That's what made Floyd Mayweather a star, right? But the issue when it comes to Canelo Alvarez and the zone, like you said earlier, they don't have guys like new media working for them that's going to ask Canelo Alvarez the tough questions. Because at the end of the day, when it's a fighter on the coincidental list, like Muhammad Ali, like Floyd Mayweather, they will bring a Brian Kinney to press his buttons, even though after he proves them wrong, they will pretty much still push the narrative, oh man, Floyd Mayweather ain't fighting the guys he's supposed to fight, right? Meanwhile, Canelo is actually avoiding the best, and you have a guy like Max Kellerman, when he interviews him, instead of asking him the tough questions, he will lie to the public and say, yo, Canelo, you're known for fighting the best. When he's avoiding Andre and Charlo to this day. So, his stock started falling due to that. People lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. And that's why his numbers in the zone is declining, just like they did with HBO. And this is something you always preach from day one. You always been preaching the whole truth from day one. So shout out to you, my brother, because like I said, I got much respect for you, because all of these experts, all of these analysts, none of these cats tell the whole truth in the boxing media. Everybody have an agenda. Everybody seems to be biased. But when it comes to you, Dante, you stand out of the bunch. You the one and only pretty much telling the whole truth. And that's why you got the biggest platform on YouTube, which is the new wave when it comes to boxing.
Hey, man. Good looking out, dog. And I'll just say this. When it comes to Canelo Alvarez, Golovkin is completely irrelevant now. You know what I mean? They jumped on the bandwagon extremely early. It's just crazy when you just go back. It was only a couple of years ago. It feels like it was 10, 15 years ago. It wasn't that long ago that they were saying Chocolatito Gonzalez and Golovkin have pretty much taken over the sport of boxing. You fast forward 5 years later, and both are irrelevant. Even though Chocolatito is making a comeback and he's getting some good wins, but, you know, both of them are considered irrelevant. And the way that ties into Canelo Alvarez is now he's starting to look more and more irrelevant. You know what I mean? So, I mean, now Canelo still has a chance of, you know, changing that, but he's going to have to get in there and do what Floyd Mayweather did, since people like to always compare him to Floyd, which is funny to me, because what people don't realize is Floyd Mayweather, he actually had to go after all of the lions and beasts before he even became the A side.
Right.
Canelo's never had a reputation of, you know, basically saying, you tell me who the most dangerous fighters are, and that's who I want to fight. You guys say he the best, let me fight that guy. Let me show you he ain't on my level. Canelo's never been that type of fighter. The only fighter he's ever called out was Floyd Mayweather. And he understood, with Canelo walking around at 200 pounds, he understood, and he fights at 154, and he usually rehydrates to like 180. You know, that's what Kokoto and Khan said. He knew he had nothing to lose. He said, worst case scenario, this guy outboxes me. He ain't gonna knock me out. He's too small. You know, and I'm gonna become a bigger star if I could go 12 rounds with him. And that's exactly what happened. But he's never like voluntarily called out undefeated dangerous champions. Like, well, I want the Charlos. I want Andre. I want this guy. I want that guy. That's what Floyd Mayweather did, since people like to compare Canelo to him. Floyd Mayweather was calling out Shane Mosley when he was undefeated, Nassim Hamed when he was undefeated, Ricky Hatton, Costa Zoo, Joel Casamayor, Acelino Popo Freitas, an extreme undefeated knockout artist who was a badass power puncher back in the day. You know what I mean? He was calling these guys out, and he was the boogeyman. He was on top of that black murderer's row back then. You know, this has never been what Canelo was about. You know what I'm saying? So if Canelo wants to get like Floyd, or he's trying to be like Floyd, as you Canelo fans keep saying it, then it's time for Canelo to start calling out the type of fighters Floyd Mayweather was calling out.
And just to add on to that, you know, Canelo Alvarez, he will fight a good fighter every blue moon, but he never been a boogeyman. You know what I'm saying? He never been a boogeyman, not in a single stage of his career. Remember, Floyd Mayweather fought Hernandez, the number 130-pounder at the time, when he was, like 19 years old, 17 fights. On the other hand, Canelo's first world title was against Ricky Hatton, brother, not Ricky
Matthew
Hatton.
Hatton.
Yeah. 147-pounder. He fought him for the 154 vacant title, which that just lets you know what kind of joke that was. But, you know, just to prove to you that three things that will always come out, regardless of what old media try to do, is the sun, the moon, and the truth. They will always come out. So with that being stated, man, I want to thank you, Dante, for giving me the time out of your day.
Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. Basically, you will end up with a haircut shape up or an edge up. What they do is they tattoo small dots that look like hair follicles in the areas where you have lost your hair, and then blend it with your existing hair. You can even choose what type of hairline you want, hard shape up or soft and natural finish. And to maintain it, all you gotta do is shave your hair every few days, which is something you already were probably doing anyway. So if you wanna get this hookup for my brothers out there in the UK and Europe, make sure you check out the Scalp-This on Instagram. And for my brothers out there in the States, make sure you go ahead and contact my man Scalp Carolinas on Instagram. And when you go on their pages, you can see for yourself what these guys look like before. I mean, these guys are literally hair magicians. I've never seen anything like this before, but all I can tell you guys is this is a serious game changer for us men. So make sure you get in contact with Scalp-This and Scalp Carolinas on Instagram. You know, I always say on this channel, pay-per-view fights should actually be free. And now the day has come where I'm about to hook you up with an app where you can watch all your pay-per-view events, boxing, UFC, etc. for free. I want to introduce Block TV, the best internet streaming television app out there. They provide over 3,600 channels, including HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, and Stars. They have a massive video on demand library with over 40,000 of the new release movies and the latest TV series. And it also includes DVR. So you're getting all of this for $34.99 a month. And once again, that includes free pay-per-view. So this one right here is a no-brainer, guys, because back in Las Vegas, I was paying damn near $200 a month for my cable. Those days are long gone now. So to get the app, make sure you guys go over to getblocktv.com and put in my promo code and get 30% off your first month. You also get a free month for every friend you refer. The promo code is DBNation.